welcome everybody to Drew's Paranormal Vlog. Tonight we have got a bit of a treat. We have got Christopher as my co-host on my channel, and we've got my beautiful sister Sherry joining us as well. So tonight we were to go over the live streams that Chris and I had done over the last couple of weeks on Ghost Squad Scotland. And Mystical Love and Light was supposed to join us, guys, but there was crossed wires somewhere. With me being busy, her being busy, I think we kind of forgot to update each other on tonight's live stream. So she has caught up elsewhere, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to go through the live streams. We are. It just won't be tonight. So tonight we've got a treat. Sherry and I is going to interview Christopher. See how you all get started.
I would like to say, that the trailer's off again that I made you. That's the first time I've really actually watched that. Do you know that?
Well, it just shows you've not been watching my channel then, because I run it every time you gave me it.
I was missed the first 5 minutes, but don't put me in a jar. Of course, that's right. I don't have to worry.
Determined, doesn't he, Sherry?
But put me in a bloody jar.
I like her intro as well. It is really good, and I love that she's got like Timberwolf at the top as well. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love it.
Do you know
that was Christopher that made that?
That was me that made that. Yes, that was me that made that. How long do you think it took me to make that?
God knows, Chris, because I know there's some super quick things and then there's some super unique things. So I don't know. An hour, 2 hours.
It was an hour. I can make them for MD. They're very, very simple. I've got that Canva on my phone. I bought Canva. And you pay like a monthly subscription. It's no much. And I can do absolutely anything.
Wow. You need to do me one for my broomsticks and pentagrams then.
I could do some witches or something like that, dancing around a big, ginormous, what do you call it?
Cauldron.
Cauldron. He's obsessed with the jar. He's that terrified to end up in one.
I'll never end up in a jar.
You can do witches dancing around the jar if you want, but it's not normally a jar they dance around. It's normally a cauldron or a fire.
Because I've got a question for you, witchy people, because I don't know anything about this witchy stuff. Are you doing anything this month for the Strawberry Moon that's got to be here? The famous Strawberry Moon?
Christopher, it's past. It was last week.
What do you? That's what I'm asking. Did you do anything? Did you do any like magical dances or rituals or weird, strange things?
I just done my normal, like my cleansing and my blessing, and just done my normal, like love and respect of my altar, and put a bit of music on and played a bit of my drum really loud and pissed off one of my neighbours. But there you go. You know. So yeah.
See, what did I do with the Strawberry Moon? I don't think I did anything. I was still making my oils and things for my shop, so technically it helped with the energy for my oils. You know,
I just did it up there to like a pick me up because of the way that I've been feeling. That I thought I'll try and do it and try and pick me up a little bit, and you know, it felt good doing it at the time. It did, yeah. So.
And the balance was just annoyed, so it was perfect.
Yeah, you'd have laughed if you'd seen it though. The way I was like going around that table with that drum and that, you'd have all been in stitches. I was proper getting into it. Like,
I think I'll need a drum. I could play it.
We all got here. We have got who in?
You're Stephanie. I nearly called you something else there.
There's Stephanie and Dobby's
as well. Who else?
Who else
got?
is that?
Dobby saying yes. What's Dobby saying? Yeah, we'll go up the list. Yes, will be interesting. If a lot of equipment goes on, I might have to turn sound down though because I can't take the hype. Yeah, we're not doing that tonight, sis. We weren't meant to, but we'll go ask us some questions.
So I've got a question for you, Drew. Did you enjoy yourself last night with Bishop Brian?
Oh yes, I was really pleasantly surprised at him. To let you understand, guys, I was actually expecting somebody to be super religious and maybe even a little bit straight to the point. But it was really funny. And after the live stream, he was telling us all about himself. And he's really a nice guy, down to earth. And,
I see it. I got like the last, I think it was like 40 minutes of it, and I was expecting some sort of guy that was quite serious, taking in his religion and but he was like, he seemed really fun and really interesting. Very funny character. Well,
I was
definitely.
expecting. Honestly, Sherry, I was expecting the Witchfinder General. That's what I was.
I had my pentagram. I
But when
forgot.
I'm not being funny, but when you hear a bishop or a priest or anything being mentioned, you normally expect them to be quite strong faced and very religion pearled and that. But I was even shocked about him talking about the UFOs and that, because they don't normally do that sort of thing. So even so open to the UFOs as well, I found him so fascinating. It was just like,
That's the first time he's opened up like that. You know that, didn't you? Our show last night was the first time that it actually opened up about UFO stuff. He's only been on like 2 other shows on the internet. I actually watched him with Dave Schrader, and he was really serious. He was really, really, really serious. And last night I thought it was absolutely, but he's coming back, and I think a couple of months' time he's coming back on.
I said that.
It was interesting. I agree with that, Stephanie. It was interesting, but like most people, you wouldn't normally hear a bishop or a priest and that talking about things like UFOs and ghosts and that. Yeah, they talk about exorcisms and that, because that does happen and that is something they work with. But you would never really hear them talk about spirits, ghosts, or UFOs or anything like that. And that was really good to hear that.
The Vatican's supposed to have the biggest collection of that type of thing, have they not, though, about the UFO stuff? So it shows that a lot of Catholics and things are right into the ufology and the UAP stuff. You know,
I was actually quite surprised at that, and it was quite good that Dakota asked the question about that with the UFO stuff, because I was going to ask him, right, and I thought, oh, I better know, bring it up. But I've never see when he does his Facebook lives. Do you ever watch his Facebook lives?
no.
When he's doing his like,
well, I didn't know of him until I seen him yesterday.
I didn't know he did do anything like that.
Did you know?
I didn't know him. Didn't know him at all until I see him yesterday on yours and Drew's show.
Yeah. He's one of the most laid back people I've ever met in my entire life. I've met different priests in my life, but it was really laid back. So there you go.
No, being Stephanie saying. No, being Catholic, I would love to hear him talk about UFOs, laugh out loud. I am the odd Catholic that talks about that stuff. Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Because they usually don't want to talk about anything like that.
Yeah, they're normally quite secret about stuff like that because of like what they are and what they represent. But like, it's a clear vision that all religions and that are opening more to things that can't be explained anymore. And that, you know what I mean? They are starting to see the
world what's happening. It's everywhere right now.
Yeah. Well, on Saturday night on Bald and Bonkers, we were talking about the new news and the UFO side, and that is amazing what's come out. I take it, Jerry, have you seen the news that's come out about the UFOs?
But the close that man, I seen something on YouTube yesterday about that man. There was a pilot or something quite high up in the army, and he's released some files or something.
He worked for a secret organization in the US government, and he was quite high up in the command structure, and he was given permission. This is big. This is really big to talk about this. And he basically says, Roswell, it happened. And yes, they did find bodies. And yes, there was another crash. There was a crash in South America where they actually got living ones and they brought them back and they helped them make technology. It's really big. It's going to change everything.
It's interesting because when we had the other show that we had, like before you had the bishop and that up, and he was talking about that there was meant to be a UK version of what happened in America.
Yes, there is.
The UFO incidents. Neil.
Audio story.
He was saying that he said that there was a very well-known incident with a UFO that happened here in the UK, and it was like the Roswell incident.
It was,
sort of thing.
Wow.
He's bringing out a book. He's got to be releasing his book soon about UFO and what actually happened and stuff like that. And I think that's going to be absolutely awesome. I'm actually getting him on the show to talk about that. So
he's coming up on Mystical Channel next Thursday at 9 p.m. guys. Next Thursday, the 22nd, 9 p.m.
Neil is an amazing. Neil is an amazing person to talk to. He's one of the best. I mean, he's actually one of the most famous people in Britain. One of the most famous authors in Britain.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually quite a big deal, and Mr. Cole's very lucky to get him.
Yeah, he's coming up
you know?
next week. He's just so interesting to talk to. The way he tells a story and everything is really. I don't know how he can remember all those facts.
I think he's like one of those like bibliographies, those books that just never ends. He's just got so much knowledge upon knowledge upon knowledge, and when you do listen to him, you don't want to stop listening. You don't want the show to stop because he's just so interesting with what he's saying and things like that.
I bought some of his books, right? And Drew, I'll give you a loan of this book on Saturday when we go to something. I'll bring this book with me, and it's the Little Book of Death from Neil Story, and it's honestly, Sherry, honestly, it's funny. It's what people have. I know I shouldn't have laughed, but it's what people have died doing.
Right.
Oh, I would like to. I could imagine some of the weird things probably in that book.
Tell us a story.
I wonder if any of them have actually died doing anything happily. You know what I mean? Like anything that's gonna.
There's 18 rated material in it. It's quite funny. There was. I'm not telling you the first. There was one guy in the early 80s. And
yeah, I don't think we should go like properly into detail. We might look like we're a bit morbid. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah.
I'll not get into too much. I'll not get into too much detail, but he got an implant to help his, his life and
his family making machine.
And something wrong at the restaurant, and it got really, really big, really, really quick, and it wouldn't go down. And he was trying different, so he ran to the toilet. The guy ran to the toilet to try and, make it weird. I still thinking about this, and it's honestly stupid, but it was put in the wrong way, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it just went pop.
It exploded.
Oh, ow!
The guy bled to death.
I should think he did if that blew up and exploded. You know what I mean? Like, I'm glad that I don't have something like that in between where I am. You know what I mean? Like, no.
A ticking time bomb.
Even with like when you pull your flies up and that and you catch it in it, I can't imagine how that must feel when they catch it in the zip now.
Wow. It's thrown off with your chin.
Yeah, no.
What exploded the iron fire? I tell you what, I'll give a load of the book.
Yes, I'll put it in the group chat.
Out to you all.
I'll tell you on the Coven private.
What exploded? I think the manly part of the guy exploded.
Yes.
Something about it was on back to front, so I don't know if it had an operation or we had something on it that shouldn't have been on it the way it was, but it
was
exploded.
An implant.
You get an implant.
Remember when they brought out like Viagra?
Oh yeah.
You had to get an implant. And
you get one.
Stay away from the implants for the man bits, guys.
There was ones that came with a pump and you pump them up and things. They used to pop
up.
Oh
my God! How can you do that? Yeah, I know, like it does make it bigger, but he must have been doing some pumping on that for it to not go down. Sorry, it's not funny. Obviously, it can't have been nice. It's just the fact of what it was. You know what I mean? He was pumping himself.
No, it was seemingly he was in like a restaurant. Seemingly he was sitting having his meal, and all of a sudden it just started.
In a restaurant as well. That's even worse. Sitting in a restaurant. Like, why didn't you just wait till you go home? Like, what the hell?
Did it malfunction to get the wrong time or something?
It was definitely a malfunction. I was going to ask if he got his money back, but he died. So I don't know.
You imagine what the poor restaurant owners must think. How they got to explain that? What was that? You know what I mean?
We have to close the restaurant for a week for cleaning of the man's toilet.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Seemingly.
There are some things you just can't help but laugh at, guys, because it's not what the fact of how it happened, it's how it's been said, and how it really is. It's just like, what? And then I didn't help when I was like, he must have pumped it enough then to make it blow up. You know what I mean? Like, so I didn't help, but Oh my God.
Well,
Yeah,
everybody's going to be having strange.
shop.
things.
But let's
the
start then.
oh my God, guys, don't start the naughty
Right.
stuff with us.
But
I'm going
let's
to have a
start.
drink of my Lucas,
Dobby's
Yeah,
like,
get
I
add
only
me
go-
to the Anne Summer shop next.
15
Yeah.
minutes.
The little bras you get with the windmills on them take off. And you start floating everywhere.
Oh my God.
Oh my
They're like
God.
Kristen, let's get
paradox
serious.
fossils.
Right, fire
Hey.
away.
Oh, welcome in,
Oh.
Paradox. Right, okay, Christopher. So, what do you
Right,
think?
I'm ready.
How did you get into this crazy business? How did you get into actually realising that you wanted to ghost hunt or talk to spirits, let's say?
I
I'm trying to change the subject, Iron.
I can't stop thinking about that man in the toilet now.
Oh, no.
And Sherry going on
Oh,
about the phone.
Chris. We were actually trying to get it out. Now it's back there again.
They're trying to get serious.
And
Hello, fossils. You
it's-
came in at a really dodgy
I've
time.
always had a fascination with the spiritual realm. I've always, oh my good God, I thought that was a black dog. Black dog there. Neil Story was talking about them. But anyway, I've always had a fascination with the spirit world and
Do you
stuff like
mind?
that. It's weird. Ever since I could remember. I mean, I can remember being born. Remember I told you about that?
Right, I want to tell the guys in case there's anybody that hasn't heard that story.
See, I've actually had people asking me about this, and it's really interesting. See, this is the thing. See, it was only in like my maybe 6th or 7th year I started to remember it, which is strange, right? And I can remember this white tunnel, but it wasn't a tunnel. It was like a hospital ward. You ever walk down a hospital hallway and it's square, right?
Yeah.
And it was all white, no windows, just walking down. I'm walking down this place, but I was with other people, but I couldn't make them out. You could just make out the silhouette of them, but I'm thinking about it. I can't really remember what I looked like. See, that's the thing. I'm only thinking I was in a body, but was I? See, this is the thing.
True.
And I stopped and I turned round, and behind me there was hundreds of people, thousands of people standing, but you couldn't make them out. And you could see like
Right.
mountains in the background and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden I woke up in this weird room, right? And this is where it gets really interesting. The room, see, I'm remembering it now. The room had red tiles in the floor and it had green tiles in the wall. You know what hospitals are like?
Yeah, like right, Olden Hospital, Victorian. Right,
There was 4 people there. There was my mum, obviously. There was 2 nurses and a doctor, right?
Right.
And I remember the nurse picking me up and weighing me. See, this is an interesting fact. Weighing me, and I looked at the tiles and they were green. I can always remember they were green tiles. You know how you have tiles that have got a kind of glaze, the same kind of colour as Drew's paranormal feet, right?
A bit of
Same kind of
ceramic
Yeah,
looking sort of colour thing, yeah.
And the light, the kind of strip light, it was on, it kind of wee flicker. Anyway, years later, I'm talking maybe 17, 18. I was at the doctor's for something, just a random checkup. And the doctor that I seen was the doctor that delivered me. Because it was still family doctors in the days that stayed in the same village. And we were just talking away, and I says to him, listen, again, this is going to sound stupid, but I tell him the story, and he went white. And he says to me, how do you know that room had green tiles? Because that hospital, after I was born...
You born in the Robert Smiler?
I was born in Lanark, and the hospital at the bottom of the high street, you came in, I'm talking about, near the gasworks, that was knocked down 6 months after I was born.
Wow.
That part of the building.
Yeah, exactly. So there would have been no way of you knowing.
No, because I'd only be 6 months old. I'd only be 6 months old.
I know where you're talking about, because that's where I had my daughter. That's where I had Terry, was the Robert Smiler. And it's the old castle looking part.
It's strange.
Yes, that's still
There
left.
isn't
Yeah.
a lot. There isn't a lot of people that. There's not a lot of people that remember being born or anything like before being born again. There's a lot of people that don't really remember that. They might like later on in life have past life premonitions now, but they don't actually remember the actual when they were born.
Yeah.
And going into the transact.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
See, I actually talked to Lisa Fry about this. You've heard Lisa Fry on, haven't you, before? And she's obviously a really good medium, and she's like she found this quite interesting. And
yeah,
you can my paranormal experiences started when I was 15. That's when it all started for me. That's when all the strange things started to happen. When I was 15, the house I'm in now, obviously we know we've got a house guest named Robert. He's probably hanging about somewhere as we speak. It's weird to say that because it's getting very cold right next to me right
He'll
now.
be there
So it's
somewhere.
probably
So what was your first ever experience that you could say you knew it was something strange? It was something that can't be explained, and you're seeing something that other people are not seeing. Like what would you say was that situation for you that made you realise like you're different?
I was in my bed. I was in my bed, different room for this one, through there. Bigger room, massive room. I was in my bed, 15 years old, and I woke up, but I was like lying on my stomach, and I was lying with my head tilted in toward the wall, and I couldn't move whatsoever.
It's like you was paralysed.
Aye, I couldn't even shut my eyelids. That's how I was like, oh my God. I mean, I've had like a dead hand before, but I felt asleep my arm. But that was ridiculous. And I looked, and I seen this man standing. He was just standing there.
Mm.
But the weird thing about him was he was see-through. And you could see his bones in his face, and you could see the bones in his hands, and he had a cane, and he had a hat.
That must have been quite creepy to see. That must have been like seeing his bones through his see-through body.
Aye, and it really was. But I had the weird feeling that he didn't really mean me any harm. He was just standing there. I don't think he realised that he was showing himself that way. I think he was just showing himself. And it's quite interesting because he just like faded away to nothing. And then I woke up, and then I kind of woke up the next day, and I was like, "Oh my God, that was just weird." And it's no that the weird things that we used to happen in my house is quite interesting. This is interesting. When we first moved to this house, I mean, like 2 days after we moved to this house, my oldest brother, no Drew, that comes into the chat, the other one, that you never see much, was walking down the hill, and he seen a man looking out the window at this house. So he came in, nobody here. And then I met, what's her name? What's her name again? That's I'm sorry, but terrible names. Was Danny's friend? No, Danny's friend, Luna. And Luna says to me that night, she says, "Listen, I don't want to scare you, but there's a man." I hear that. It's no my end, it's your end.
It sounds like somebody walking.
Yeah. And it's maybe this it's picking up because I've got these on and I can't hear anything going about me. I can only hear this.
Do you want to know something as well? Sorry to interrupt you, but we won't be able to listen back the lives now because StreamYard has got that thing where it fixes everything in the background.
Sounded like somebody on a hard floor stomping sort of sound. That's what it sounded like a.
It sounded like.
It was weird.
Quite interesting.
Now. Sorry, Chris. Continue, pal.
But I was talking to Luna that night. Remember when I first started doing the live stream?
Yeah, I think that's when I met you. I think I was in one of their shows and I met you and Drew. Yeah.
And she told me, "Oh, listen, there's a man standing behind you with a cane and a hat, a flat cap that I wear." And then Danny told me his name was Robert. And one night I was in my bed, and he walked into the room, and he just stood there, and he looked totally different. He looked just normal, and he looked at me and he smiled and he just disappeared. And then after that, I've not seen him, but I feel him. You feel him now and again. You feel it's really cold a bit here right now, and you came at the weather's like it's weird. So I think he's about. He likes to watch, but it was we had a psychic on at Bald and Bonkers, and she was on like CNN and stuff like that. She's one of a really really interesting psychic medium. And she says to me, she says, "Listen," she says, "see that location you're in. It was before the live. It was actually like about a month, 2 months ago. And she says, before the live, she says, listen, your location's really active, you know. And I says, I know, it's Robert. Like that. He says, and I went, the man with the hat, and he says, yes, and the cane. And I went, yes. And I says, how do you know that? And he says, because he stands right behind you with his head looking right at the screen. And he's like that. I says, what do you sense from him? He says, oh, he likes you. He comes from the farm up the back. Who else said that? That was Luna that said
Luna,
that he came from the farm up the back.
I know that there was a show where Luna was on it, Pups was on it. There was one where we had all of us on there, and I know that I said a few things to you as well about certain things that I could see. So I think that there was like a jump through. I remember the first show with you and Luna where she said about Robert.
Because remember, he used to hang back at the door.
Gave the name of Robert.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
then
then
I
we was all
swapped
on another
everything
show
round.
where we were saying what we could see and stuff like that. From what I remember, it was something we. Because that was when you and Drew come onto my show, and Chris had his first experience seeing a fairy going up into the thing. I still watch that every single time. I still watch his face.
That's right.
That's right.
Sure, something came out your wall.
After that, obviously I got into the paranormal, started meeting Danny and Hughes and Drew and you, Sherry, and I got into that. But obviously I do the UFO stuff too, but I'm trying slowly to kind of get away from that a wee bit because it was getting a wee bit overpowering. Because I came, I mean, with the UFOs, I'm still there, like, but it was just a wee bit overpowering.
I still have them around me, and I still try to communicate. But with everything that happened, and I still make my own interaction with them and my own way of communicating with them. But if people ask me questions, and I'll speak about it, but I won't freely open and talk about it.
I think it's the thought of actually astral traveling and then getting took out your house. That's what scares me.
See that? I
see. That's the scary part for me.
But I've had some terrifying experiences in astral traveling. I've been ill, but some of the nice experiences I've had, I've seen some absolutely amazing things, like the time that I was doing my meditation. I wear noise cancelling headphones, different ones for these little battery operated recharge ones. When you put them on, you can't hear anything, nothing, right? And I play like a certain 900 something hertz, and it's like music, you know, that relaxing music you get. And it's like the space music that I do. And I went to this realm. I was in my bed, I had my headphones on, and I went to this realm, and you've never seen anything as amazing in your entire life. It was like, you ever seen that film When Dreams May Come? With Robbie Williams, he dies and he goes to heaven. You know the ones.
I don't think I have. I'm not sure.
People in the chat
the big staircase. It's got the stairs to heaven, and he walks up and he looks back, and God's meant to be at one side, and his other life's at the bottom, and he's got to choose what way he goes. I don't know if it was Robbie Williams.
No. This one was made in the 90s. It's called When Dreams May Come, and there's the Iron Firehorse. They ken what I'm talking about. And imagine the most beautiful mountains ever, right? I'm just putting something in your head. Right? Imagine looking, you're standing in a grassy field, and all around about you is flowers everywhere, right? And in front of you, they've got a beautiful city, and I mean like a city, maybe like maybe dating back to like the Roman times kind of city, right? And a beautiful waterfall, right? And all around about you, it's just absolutely beautiful. And there was like honeysuckle, and there was flowers, and I could smell it. It was intense. And there was a man standing behind me, and he says, I've got a present for you for everything you do. And I don't know if it was an extraterrestrial, to be honest with you. I think it was. They were showing me something. And he's pointed, and there was people sitting at a big table.
Right.
And he says, there's your family. And it was family, my grandmother and stuff that passed on.
Ancestors.
And I went to walk to them, but there was like a wall. It was weird. It was like a force field. It was like a pane of glass.
Right.
He says, it's not your time. It's not your time yet. You've got lots of things you have to do. Right. And I says, listen, I don't want to go. And he says, you have to go. And I didn't want to go. And then I woke up in my bed. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning, and see my room. It smelled of flowers. That lasted for 3 days.
Yeah, and that can happen, especially if you do go really far into your meditation and things like that. Because I go to realms that you just like. I have like if I go into communication, I have a place that I go to my guides and people like that. And now I always end up in this place that I can describe as like a valley. It's got loads of woodland. It's really beautiful. You've got flowers that you can't even explain. You've got mountains you can't explain. You've got trees and everything. But I always end up on a boat on the water, and my guides are always in the boat, and we're floating down, and they're telling me what I need to know. It's really random.
What I've what I've learned is for a lot of psychics that I know and stuff like that, like Lisa Fry and stuff like that. What you want heaven to look like, that's what it looks like for you.
Yeah.
Right. So if you go there and you're expecting trees and a log cabin with some snow and mountains and wild deer running about, and that's what you get, that's what I was going to get. But it didn't stop there. I've been to a lot of places. I've been to like the Akasha Records, which is an interesting place.
Wow.
And that's a very interesting place. I've been on the kind of UFO side of stuff and the alien kind of stuff. I've seen a lot of things.
Do you think you could get lost out there? Do you think you could meditate and not come back? Is there anything that you've ever felt that you've struggled to come back? Any of the two of you?
It's not so much that you can't come back. Like there are situations where you could be in it, you could get really stuck, and you could be really drawn and connected to what you're seeing, and you think it's so beautiful, you don't want to leave it. But there's always going to be an energy that looks over that's going to make sure that you leave when you have to leave, because you're not. It's not your time to be there at that time. Like they're letting you have a sneak in. That's it. You know what I mean? So
it's you're still alive in this realm. You're still alive, right? It'd be different if you're dead, right? You can go anywhere you want. But I have experienced extraterrestrials. There's so many different races out there. You have no idea, right? There is so many different races out there, and I do think, and I still get weird things happen to me. Last night, something happened to me, which I'm not really getting into, but it's when I was doing my meditation kind of stuff. Things are coming. Things are going to happen very soon in this world. Things are happening right as we speak right now.
Yeah.
And I think the world's got to change. See, in the next 5 years, everything's got to change. Everything's got to be totally different.
Oh, I believe that 100% that it's going to, definitely. And because like I said to you, I don't think you could ever like go that far that you die or anything. But I did have an experience about, I think it was like 5 years ago, on one of my streams, where I had been channeling in a show, and it got to that point where it actually made me drop to the floor and I stopped breathing. I was not actually breathing. When you see me laying on the floor for about 20 minutes, you don't see my body moving, you don't see my thing going up and down, and then you suddenly see what, you know, like when somebody puts like those heart things over you and makes you jump off the bed, like to bring you back to life. That happened. It's like I'd got electric shock. You see my body just shoot and spin, like literally I spin over onto my stomach. And I was like, well, what happened? I wasn't actually not breathing, but it looked like I wasn't breathing because it had paralyzed my body that much. It was like I died, but I wasn't dead, sort of thing. I weren't responding. I wasn't moving. There was no movement to my belly. Everyone was going, like, you could see the room going, Sherry. Then, oh my God, I think something's happened to her. And then obviously I had that electric thing done, which was Aura. It was actually Aura that done that. She had to bring me back. She actually done the electric. Then I jumped up off the floor and that night, and everyone was like freaking out. That was like quite a few. You can get to the point where your body can become so paralyzed. It's like you're going through those situations and those things, but you're not actually physically dead. So they can affect you in a way that they make you look like you are, but you're not. You know what I mean?
I have experienced loved ones, meeting loved ones. I'll tell you who I've met. I've met my grandma, my father's mother. I met her one night, and it was weird. And the story behind it, I still can't explain to this day. It was weird. It was actually 2 days after her death, right? And I went to my bed as usual that night, and I woke up in this white room. Everything was white. I mean, everything was white. But it didn't hurt your eyes. And she walked up to me, and there she was, and she says, "Listen," she says, "I have to go now. I'm sorry, but I love you, and everything's got to be fine, and I'll see you one day. But always, what I noticed was, you know, when the old women used to wear, is it nightgowns? They're called.
Yeah,
It
90s.
Yeah,
was the one
nightgowns,
piece,
yeah,
the one
90s,
piece
yeah,
one, right?
night dress.
The old cotton things.
She wore them all the time, and I mean, she wore them all the time. When she was alive, but she always wore plain ones,
Right.
always plain. But the ones she had on had embroidered roses all the way round about her neck, again on the side, and there was wee roses on it. So I never thought anything about it. So like maybe 3 days later, I went to see Manny, her daughter, and my auntie Margaret. She watches this stuff, and she's probably watching the now. And she told me, oh, I was in at the funeral home. I was in at the funeral home the day taking in your grandmother's 90, so as they could dress her for burial, right? See that live that I did the other day there in the graveyard, and I says, "This is my grandmother." That was my grandmother
That
that was
one,
buried
right.
there, right? Right. And I says, I'm going to tell you a story to her like that. She said, "That's what happened in the dream." And she just went white. And she says, "Wait the now." And she went up the stairs, right? And she come back down with this plastic bag. She says, "I have to go to the undertaker's tomorrow to take in the clothes which she's getting buried in." And she pulled this thing out, which was a Marks and Spencer. I can always remember it was a Marks and Spencer wrapper,
Well, they did the
right?
best goonies.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the best goodness, aye. And it was sealed, still in its packet, never been opened. And what did it have? Embroidered roses all the way round about it, and
Wow.
roses.
And you had that,
And
and you had this in a dream, or was
yes,
you awake?
I fell asleep in the chair, dead in my bed.
Because like you can have like your visitations, which is where they can come to, but there is also a thing known as a crisis apparition, which is where somebody that passes away shows to you just before their death is happening, as the body's transacting
Oh,
with the
it was
spirit.
about it was about 4 days after her death. It was four
Yeah, so
Right.
days
it'd have
after
been
her
a
death.
premonition or
Yeah.
something. Then
Aye.
yeah,
No, she came to me with that nightgown on, with the embroidered roses, but she had not. She was still at the hospital. She was still at the mortuary place,
See,
right?
that's crazy,
And
isn't it? How she hadn't
her
even wore the
daughter
dress yet.
hadn't had the dress on yet, but she knew the future, so she came to me like that. So as I would go and say to her daughter, and her
So she
daughter would
really
go
came
white,
from
and
the
then
future.
realise, aye,
but if you
you
think
did. You know
about
the
it,
future.
like when they go into the spiritual realm and stuff like that, they're very aware of what their family's going to be doing, and at their first transaction of death, and that they're very, very vigilant to what their family are doing because of the preparation of their bodies, things like that. This is when
Yeah.
they're most like they're not at rest in the way that they're like uneasy or anything, but they're not settled until their body is settled. So this is where they.
Transgressing into the
And
next
obviously,
period.
the way
Yeah,
Chris had had the
transitioning.
premonition of what she was wearing is because she was obviously aware that this is what she was going to be wearing, and she
Hmm.
wanted, and
Yeah.
it was her. I think it was her way of reaching out to you, Chris. Like, this is what I'm going to look like. She knew you was going to be
I,
going to see her as well, which might have been another reason she done it, like just to forewarn
yeah,
you, like what she's going to look like.
Oh,
And
that's nice, Brent. I have too,
that's
Chris.
nice.
My
Yeah.
dad came to me 2 days before he passed to see if it was okay for him to leaving, but he waited 2 more days before he passed to make it easier for me. Oh wow.
it is beautiful when they do that. It is beautiful when they do that. Like my mum had an experience. Because obviously where I recently lost my nan and that. Now she didn't see an apparition of my nan or anything like that, but there was a weird thing that had happened because my nan was saying that my granddad had visited her and was saying to her that he was waiting for her and that they would be together soon. Okay, that was what my granddad was meant to have said to my nan. Sorry, this was a month before her death. Okay,
Oh.
and then
Yeah.
on the day of the death, we was obviously informed by the hospital that it was going on. You need to get in. You know what they do, family. You need to hurry up. You need to get to the
Yeah.
hospital. Someone's turned. Blah blah blah. Like, and we were trying to get there, and Mum had this experience happening in her front room. She was standing there, and we it was definitely at the moment that my nan was passing because all these lights appeared around her, moving around her, and she could see these lights, and she was trying to back them to like move them. And like she said, it was like she saw loads of people there. I said it was the family, and then she see this most biggest light that come and hovered near her, and she said she could feel this sense of love from it, and she tried to like touch it, and it went through the wall with the other lights. I said it was Nan, and
Yeah.
it was the family, like letting you know, like that they've got her. I can tell you.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll give you one. And this just shows you how life is planned. This is, I think before you come here, everything's planned out, and this is the honest truth. I think, and this is quite interesting. It's sad, but my auntie that passed away, her man passed away about 6 years ago, and then she passed away like a year after that with cancer. Now, in my village, you know the Douglas Hospital, Drew, that's in the village.
Huh?
As you go out
Yeah.
of Douglas,
Did you come into
she
Douglas
was
yet?
born. She was born there. I think it was in the 1940s sometime. I don't know the exact date. And she was born in the little room at the hospital next to the front desk, right?
Right.
See, when she was dying of cancer, and they moved her into this room, and she died in this room. She died in the same room that she was born in.
Oh wow.
That is very peculiar.
She
That
came
is
in.
to actually die in the same room as
Yeah.
what you were born in. That's really strange.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
And
that's what happens when you stay in a
it just
small
shows you, I
village, though,
think.
isn't it?
That's pretty unique.
Yeah.
I'm saying,
There
like
was
you could
another
never.
3 rooms. There was another 3 or 4 rooms.
It's not very often you hear people say that. Oh, do you know what? I died. Like my relative died in the same room as she was born in. You know what I mean? You'd be like, what?
That's
Really? Like that is just so like.
That's
That's nuts.
got to have a certain energy, isn't it? There's got to be.
I think like
special
Pacific when things like that happen, I think it's something that's really important. It's something really special. I really
Yeah.
think that there's something. I reckon like when these sort of things happen, there's an element in their life that they've fulfilled to be able, and they go back and like from that happening, she most definitely would have come back as another life if that happened. There was a reason for that, most definitely.
Do you know? Someone told me something. Told me the other day. See that live that I did in the graveyard the other day? No, not today. The one. What day was that? I was walking about Douglas Cemetery. No, not the graveyard cemetery.
Monday, I think it was. Monday, wasn't it?
Was it Tuesday or Monday?
Was that the one that you done on your own, or was that the one that was with Drew?
I was
The
just
one
been
after
wondering
the
about.
live. We went on
It's
Sunday,
the
and I'm
one.
sure it was Monday or Tuesday. Chris went out
It
himself.
was Tuesday. It was Tuesday. Now this is interesting. One of the people that's subscribed to me, his name's Alex Hanna. He used to live in Briggside. He immigrated to Australia. I'm just giving you his backstory. This is he immigrated in the 1970s, like 60s, early 70s. And I was walking through the graveyard, right? And he was watching the live in Australia. And he's no subscribed to me because he's no way he doesn't ken how to do it. He's old, right? It doesn't came out today. And he's like, he sent me a message. He says, you know, Chris, it was the weirdest thing when you were walking back. He turned to his wife that was sitting next to him in the chair and he says, do you know where Chris is now? That's where my mum and dad is buried. God, I wish right now Christopher would pan the camera around to the wall, right? And I was just wandering along. And he said that to his wife. And you know, I didn't ken this because he wasn't speaking in the chat. I had a weird feeling to aim the camera at the wall just after he said that. I thought, what's that?
Yeah.
I recorded it, but I never knew anything about it. He actually sent me a message saying, oh my God, and I'll see if I can find the message. He's saying thank you. Because when he said that in Australia to his wife, his mother and father that's passed, that was buried where I was standing, must have gave me and made me turn that camera around to his grave, to his mother and dad's grave.
Confirm it.
Yeah. It's what's here. It says,
But
just
that's what I
finished
mean,
watching
like.
Douglas. I'm just going to read this really quickly. This is what he sent me. Just finished watching Douglas Cemetery and you have absolutely made my day. When you left your granny and grandpa, which was in the bottom, the grave, and you walked over to the wall. Then you walked up to the footpath. You had camera facing inwards, and I just said to my wife, I just wish you would turn the camera around. This is a messenger. This is last night sent us into the wall. And you did 5 seconds after he said that to his wife. I got a weird feeling just to pan the camera in. Yeah. And
Yeah.
That's
it
definitely
shows you.
coincidence.
It just shows you. There's definitely something out there. And there's definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
I meet a lot of people that say, "Oh, they don't believe. They don't believe." This is what really annoys me about the paranormal side. Some people in it, they don't believe in ghosts and ghouls and stuff like that, but they believe in Jesus and God, and when you die, you're going to heaven. But they don't believe in ghosts. I mean,
Most
Well,
people
yeah,
need to
and
see it
that's always
for
baffled
themselves,
me
don't
as well.
they? Yeah, they need to
Whenever
see it or
anyone's ever
experience
said that, dash. Like I've never really understood when they say that. Like, yeah, no, we don't believe in him, but we believe in God. And I'm like, well, God died and rose as a spirit. You know, like he rose, he made the spirit. So how can you not believe in spirit? How can you believe in him if you don't believe in a ghost or anything? You know what I mean? Because he was the same thing. He resurrected.
Yeah, the
That's not
Holy Spirit.
resurrected, come back to flesh and blood, and he was back like us. He resurrected to spirit. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? So
yes, the Holy Spirit.
how can it not exist if
what's
he's
that?
the very creator of it? You know
What's
what I
that
mean?
for
So
Dobie Sock there? Chris, will you go up to Kirkland sometime
no one cares
to
about.
Nova Kirkland? Dobie, send me the link to the graveyard in Messenger, and I'll see about getting up there sometime. Best I
Yeah, definitely.
can do. I just think before we come here, I think we have to. Everything's planned out for a reason. I think
Do
everybody's
you
playing a
feel like
part right now.
your gifts have definitely got more for you started ghost hunting?
Oh aye, oh aye.
I
I've
feel that as
seen
well.
weird things.
Mm-hmm.
Aye. I think the more you get doing this road, see with the UFO stuff, the more you get into doing the rabbit hole, the more it gets. And once you open that door to that realm,
Mm-hmm.
that's that. You can never really close that door again.
No.
Yeah,
Sherry knows about that.
yeah.
Sherry's had that experience, and once you open the door to that realm, that's that. You can't close it until
You
the
Like,
wanted
but
very
to
when you
end
hear
of
know
the
these
day.
people
you
that say
started
like,
sharing.
oh, when you get these, it's like you get these people, don't you? Like that turn around and go, right, oh, we're going to shut our abilities down. Like you can do it so that you can like drown things out and you don't focus on anything, but it's never quite gone. You know what I mean? There's always going to be things that you're going to remember, things that are always going to still be there. You know what I mean? Even though you may, it's not so that much that the abilities themselves is gone. You've trained your mind. You've trained your mind to believe that they're gone. Like if you
Right.
was to start going back into it, it would come back. Like Chris said, once you open that doorway, it's never fully closed. It never will
When
be.
you started
Now,
to
how
tell
much you
people
try to
about your
do.
gifts, Sherry, when you were younger, did you feel that the teachers and things that you opened up to really wanted you to be quiet and not speak about it? And did you open up to people and they told you to be quiet?
When I was young, like obviously with my family and stuff like that, you know, like what any usual child would do. Like we used to watch that program on TV called Strange but True. I don't know if any of you
Right.
guys used to watch it in the UK
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that, but
I
Strange
know
but
what you're
True.
talking about.
And I
Yeah.
used to always be asking my mum questions about, Mum, so those spirits, so those things on TV, I'm supposed to be ghosts now, because obviously I was having these experiences and that, but I didn't want to outright say to my mummy, I'm seeing a person in my room that's not there, like sort of thing. I was like, I was young, you know what I mean? So obviously, from being 5 years old and having the experience with aura, that you can't deny that. Okay,
Yeah.
that was there. That happens every day of my life. You know what I mean? But to be able to open and actually talk out to other people about it, it was a very difficult thing for me to do. I was very scared to do that.
Yeah.
But I would always get like I was very hard working at school, but I would always get told off for daydreaming and not focusing on what my teachers and that were doing,
Mm-hmm.
because I would always be too busy watching what was going on around me that other people weren't seeing. So I was very
Right.
like, and like people like my godmom and people like that knew I was gifted because they watched me grow up. You know what I mean? And they go, yeah, you've always been that. That's why you've seen her in the room a couple of times. Yeah, she's been like that since she was a kid. Because I
Yeah.
have. But it was only when I come into my time where I lost my kids and I really delved into that I thought, you know what, I'm not going to hide myself anymore. I'm not going to be scared to tell anybody what I am anymore. I'm not going to do it behind closed doors and pretend that it don't exist, because it does exist and it will never go away. And and that's what I done. And yeah, I done loads of research and I come to understand what spirits and ghosts were, these people I was seeing. Of course I did. And I had energies from the other side that learnt me that. My grandmother, you know, other family members, normal spirit people. Like, I had all of that communication, but
Yeah.
I was not comfortable with speaking to people such as my teachers and people like that, because you just don't know what they would have done. Like, would they have put me forward to a
Yeah.
doctor saying that maybe she's got something wrong? Because I was
Yeah.
already at a special needs
It's
school as it was because of my dyslexia, that, so I didn't want to be
aye.
bringing anything else onto me at all.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
I've never really talked about this with my family. My mum and dad ken what I do and stuff like that, and my other ones don't believe in all this kind of stuff, but they're starting to believe in the kind of UFO side of things now. They're starting to believe what I've been telling. Like, but it's actually interesting you say that, Sherry, because look what happened to Danny with his abilities.
Well, he was put into hospital. My pops was actually put into hospital several times and had to have electrotherapy and all sorts of things done on him because they believed that he was crazy, and he wasn't. It's just how we are gifted. You know what I mean? Like, with like when people go like, so your mum's not gifted. My mum was gifted, but my mum never let on that she was gifted. Any time we would I'd ask her anything about that, she'd say, "Oh, it's not true. Don't think about it." Blah blah blah. But she'd had a really bad experience that put her off even entertaining that anymore. And she'd been informed that your firstborn is a girl and she will be gifted, and she didn't want to put that onto me. So she always made me like try to make me believe it didn't exist. And it was a couple of years ago that she admitted she used to be a card reader. She used to communicate with spirits. She used to do all these sort of things, but she had to shut it off because she got really badly attacked by a negative energy that was said that it would come back to me.
See, that
It was
it's great.
me. And listen, we were protected by witches that she knew.
You see that's
And
see that's
when it happened, and I said, "Mum, I'm an investigator now." And she was seeing I was taking that. She got, and she admitted it. I said, "Why did you never tell me? Why did you always let me believe that it were? Why did you try to make me believe that weren't real?" She goes, "Because I knew that you knew it was real. I knew that you had your abilities. I was told all those 20, God knows how many years ago, but I wasn't going to be the reason for you going into it. You needed to find your path yourself." And that's what she done. She let me find my path myself. So
Only way it
See, I
could have
think-
happened, really, isn't it?
yeah.
I think everybody's here for a reason, but this is all planned out. Everybody's here for a reason, and whatever your destiny is, I always felt like I had like a slight destiny. I was aware that I was here to do something. I mean, all it takes is you to be sent here to do one thing, and that one thing makes somebody do something, and then that person makes somebody something, and it goes down the line to that person does something that whoever created everything wants to happen. Yeah,
Well, we're here to
I
we're
think we're
here to
definitely here
put a
for a
stamp and
reason.
a mark on this world. That's what we're supposed to do. We're here to educate, learn, and show people things. You know, like
Look
you're
at
saying,
when we
we're
all
all
met, for
chosen for a
example.
reason, aren't we? So.
Yep. When we all met a way back just before lockdown. So imagine if we hadn't met then, we would have all probably just went all our own way, except for we met just before lockdown. And through lockdown, we were all there for each other, and we were all like sharing stories and doing lives and things. So that was a bad situation for the world to be in. But there was one good thing that came out, it wasn't it? Because it made this big, huge community, all of us, Uncle Danny as well, and Luna and everybody, even though they don't come on the lives much, they are still very much in the background and talk on Messenger and things.
But they've made their
You-
stand in the community.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
But see, we might have been tasked with this before we came here, right? Because somebody might watch this. Somebody we don't know, no Iron Fire Horse. Somebody might watch this, right? Or somebody in the chat that's commented watch this, and it
Yeah.
made them think. Do you know something? I think there's life after death. Or do you know something? I think aliens exist. Then they've went out and they've told people, and then they've come and watched, and then they've went and told people. And I think this is why we're here. We're here to try and wake people up.
That's that.
Because
Of course it is. Of course,
Yeah.
why else would we be doing these sort of things? Why would we be doing these things if we weren't trying to wake people up to the truth? We wouldn't be doing them, would we? Like Dobby said, everyone is born with gifts, but many lose it. Yeah, but like we said earlier, I don't think anybody ever physically completely loses abilities. It's just that over time and the resemblance of things around you, you learn to forget the spiritual side of you, and you learn to go with the way of life.
Sometimes you've got another purpose
you've
first.
forgot it. You've not lost, you forgot. that is
Yeah.
what it's done.
See, it's actually quite interesting you're saying about forgetting, right? Look at the kids that have been born, like little boys or little girls that have been born, and they're maybe 3 or 4 years old, and they go, Daddy, I was in an airplane once, and they're like looking at them, and they're like, what do you mean? I crashed, and
Yeah.
you remember seeing that on TV?
There was that program on TV, A Ghost Inside My Child, and it said it was about kids that were having experiences of people from a past life. There was a woman, there was a young girl, I think it was a young boy, and he was having an experience from a woman that died in a fire building and had to jump out of the thing, and he was reliving this. There was another one with a World War thing. He kept having these visions of being in a war and having fighting in that. And they were able to find all the information through what he was saying. And they were able to find the grave where the person was buried. And it was like a reincarnation of this person. Like they had the same personality. He thought the same way.
Yep.
You know, he carried that spirit on. It's the ghost inside my child is what I used to find that really fascinating. Really fascinating.
It's
definitely said good, Eva. Yeah.
I was watching a program last night, and it was on YouTube actually, and it was about how children can see things that we can't see, right?
Yeah.
Well, some of us can see because we're psychic and stuff like that. Some of us, but like you, Sherry, and other people that are psychic, but there's children that'll sit and they'll say, "Daddy, Daddy, there was an old woman come into my room." You know what I mean? And then when they get to a certain age, when they get to that's like 5 or something, when they get to that age, they just forget. They forget everything. And did you see the one about the little boy that went to his dad and says, "Listen, I don't really like it here. I didn't really want to come, but they made me come back."
Yeah, I want to go back to old life.
I think I do. I remember there was a few of them, weren't there?
Yeah, I think sometimes think about it. There's not really much you can do with your gifts between 5 and 16 anyway, except for maybe scare yourself and a few people around you. So maybe that is why you're
there was that other one as well. There was that other one. There was a couple that got pregnant and they lost the baby just as at full term. The baby obviously passed on and went to the other side. A couple of years later, they had their son. This was on The Ghost Inside My Child, and it was actually the child that they'd lost had gone into the brother.
Yeah,
sort of thing. He'd come back as another being, but the same being, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Really, and he was saying to him, "I've been here before. You've held me before." And they were like, "What do you mean?" And that he said about what he was wearing on the day that he died, and they couldn't understand how he would know that. Right? It was really weird. Really
See, here's a question I've got for Betty's and people in the chat. When you do that, and you do go back to the afterlife, and you do go back to the afterlife, right? Do you want to come back again? Think about
born into the same family, yes. No, if I'm not going to be born into the same family and I have to forget everybody around me or they're no priority anymore.
Like I've always said that I don't feel I belong here. Okay, I've always just felt that I'm here for a reason and it's to educate and stuff. But I actually don't think that it's my last time here. I think there's a lot of things they've got in plan for me, and it's not just in this life. There's a couple of more lives I've got yet, and it isn't through mistakes or anything I've done wrong. It's the fact that there's a value to why I've got to keep coming back. So I believe if I could choose, I'd rather stay there and not come back. But I know that I haven't got the options to choose. I have to come back.
See, it's interesting because for people in the chat, if you cross over, right, and you're a light being, right, you know absolutely everything. There's no pain. You can do anything you want. Do you really want to come back here? Why not go somewhere else?
With some of you, you don't have that choice. It isn't the say-so of you all the way. It's the say-so of them. If there are things that they see that are vital in other lives that they feel that you can continue, they will send you back in. No matter how much you kick and stump your heels and say you're not going, you will see a massive big light show and you'll be coming down.
I think that's probably what it is. If you're a natural healer and they're going to send you back, if you're successful in doing the job that
if you've done things that are achieving,
they're going to send you back to do it again.
I think the only way you get to choose is if they feel that you've fulfilled everything in life. If you feel that you want to come back, so you want to continue to make the world better and try and help people to transcend and come back to the real world, that's up to you. Or you can choose to stay here. But then what people have got to remember is, even up there, you've got a job and a work to do. You will never ever be just sat there. You will become something special in that realm. So even if you was to not come back to Earth, you would have specific work you have to do to work with humankind. It never ends.
See, but here, think about this, right? Here's a conundrum for you, right? We're sitting here right now. We can remember everything right now, right? So think about it in a sense, maybe 200 years from now, right? If we come back, you see what I'm trying to say? But you can visit yourself. You see where I'm trying to go with that? Because there's no time in afterlife, right? Aye. So,
and I get what you're saying, and that would be really cool. That would be really cool.
Aye, I think.
And not every I think a lot of people think you die, and then you come back like really quickly. But the thing is everybody's gone through different stages in life and that. So there might be somebody that goes to heaven, and the next day they're coming back in a new baby. Okay, there could be people that are up there for 3 weeks, 10 weeks. There could be somebody that's up there for 4 or 5 years.
This is
really depends on your gender and what they're wanting from you.
Just depends.
See, this is the question. This is where it gets interesting. So this is the interesting part, Sherry. Right, say for instance, you die in an accident, but you're brought back to life again. You wake up in the afterlife, and the angel says, "Listen, all your family will be waiting for you when you die." Right, so you come back to life, right? But see, your grandmother decides that she wants to be reincarnated again, right? How will she be in the afterlife for you when you die?
What I try to explain to people, like, because they try to say, like you lose a loved one, and you're still in that world, and obviously they're meant to come back here, they're meant to reincarnate. There is always an element of that spirit of that last person that stays in heaven. Not all of it comes back here. Okay, we have always got an everlasting soul that continues. What you've got to remember, we are energy in spirit form. We can divide and multiply as much as we want. Okay, so even though we reincarnate and we come back as somebody else, there's always going to be an element of that loved one or of you, whoever it is, that's going to be left there. So when that family of that time does come, there's still an understanding and somebody that they realize and they recognize. You know what I mean? So there's always a little bit there. And that little bit that's left is what builds the true spiritual self that we are. Each life we've had builds this true being we're supposed to be.
Right.
See, that's interesting you say that. I think, right, say for instance, when I lived to 196, right, and I pass away one night, right, and I go to the afterlife, I will stay in the afterlife, but a bit of my soul will come back again as someone else. I think that's how it works.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. And it doesn't even have to be through reincarnated and stuff like that. Like you're saying, you like the way that you say it's like you're saying you don't ever want to come back here as in spirit or as in anybody else. You're just your work's completely done. But that's what I was saying. But your work's not done. It carries on up there, and you still have to work with mankind if you're not there in a physical body. But in this world, this is what our life creation is. It's like we are a circle of life. Yeah?
It's eternal. Everything's ever flowing.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
not unless you're a god or something, like the books say that you're up there sitting eating grapes and things. It doesn't really work like that. You're always needed and always got purpose.
Yeah, but there are people that have said they've felt the elements of being gods and goddesses. They have had that feel of divine premonition. Just because a god and goddess exists, it doesn't mean that it hasn't been able to walk physically. It can through the beings of other people and people that are living. They can exist in human form if they want to.
Yeah, because goddesses came back as well. They've had a purpose to come back. They say that the Morgan came back to help, like, empower people through the war and things like that. Different goddesses came back away back to help.
And they are here.
Remember, the women actually made a lot of the different things for when the World War II and things was going on. So think about it. All the goddesses
Do you
probably
right?
back.
But let me think of it this way. Do you think that any of these energies that we come into communication would be able to walk in this world if they were never once part of it? It don't matter. Like even the demonic, people go on about demonics. Oh, well, they've never had a soul in that. But you don't know what they were 15, 16,000 years ago. They were supposed to have
They were
come from
fallen
God.
angels.
They were thrown out of
They
heaven, which means
were
they have an
Yeah.
understanding of
Don't know what they've all
humankind. They have
done.
an understanding of working with humankind. Like anybody that is associated or can walk in this world has been part of this world in some shape or form, which is why they can do so. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's we could sit here for days, weeks, and months and talk about this, but I think people get confused in the end.
I love it.
I know.
Theorising everything.
I'm looking
we was
forward
actually going to
tomorrow night.
interview Chris,
I'm
and it
looking
didn't
forward
turn into
tomorrow
an
night.
interview. It was like 2 questions to Chris, and the rest just
see?
went slowly.
The rest was
We
just
started
I know.
talking about everything.
I know. What's that there? I thought
Well, guys, is there any questions you want to ask Chris before we do go, or Sherry or myself?
Yes.
If there's anything you
Just
want to
remember
ask.
this as a question. Remember this, guys, right? Okay. Life is given to us for a reason, and it may be difficult and it may be a struggle at times, yeah. But there's a benefit and a reason to why we're all here, and endure that, because each time you endure what you are and who you're supposed to be, the more brighter you grow, and the more you are seen.
Yeah.
Okay, so just always believe in what you believe and don't listen to anybody else, and just keep following your heart and what you believe in. That's all I can say to you.
Surround yourself with good friends that helps you through things.
I think, as I say, I'm going to say this again, we're here for a reason. We're here to make things happen. You look with Mike, the naked Bigfoot, right? He wanted to meet Dave Schrader. That was his goal. That was his goal. He wanted to meet him. Me and Dakota, we says to Dave Schrader that night, says, listen, could you come in? And he came in, he met him. I'll still never get over that, because I've never seen Mike.
That was the first time I'd ever seen Mike actually be quiet on the stream and not hardly say anything and talk politely and like.
You see, this is what I'm trying. This is what I'm trying to get at. That we made his dream come true.
You did.
That's what we were here today, and now he's crossed over now. He's managed to achieve that goal. You know what I mean? And us doing all these lives and that, maybe we're helping people out there to achieve their goals in life.
Well, that is what we're doing, really, isn't it? We're waking people up to who they are. We're helping them to find it themselves. You know, like that. Like I think some people think, oh yeah, but if we get like, it doesn't always mean when we reach certain goals, it means it's the end of our life. It just means that there may be another path in that. But for some people, you know, we reach that time in life where everything we were supposed to learn and understand on this world has been done. There is no more room. That energy becomes overpowered by what that is learned. It can't grow anymore. So you have to leave the physical body to be able to replenish, to be able to come back and relearn something else. Okay, that's why a lot of us, when we come back and we go into certain things that we do, we pick it up without even doing research. Now it's like we've done it before. It's because you probably have. It's the same with my witchcraft. I know I've been a witch several times. Okay, because the way that I just come into it, I've never had to read books. But obviously, I've had books and things that I've like browsed through. But when I was younger, I didn't do all the very much research or anything like that. I learned naturally. You know what I mean? And it was like I knew it already. And if you have had that element and you've been that in any other sort of life, once you start delving in it, you start to remember certain things and you think, hang on, this feels familiar, even though you know I've not done it before. It feels familiar.
It's like you've done it before.
You've done it before. It's like the deja vu effect when you walk into a place and you look at it and you're like, I know I've never been here before, but I've seen that place before.
Yes. I do that with Edinburgh Castle. It's crazy.
Just keep being awesome,
guys. Christopher, what have you got coming up? Tell everybody about our show tomorrow night, please, on Ghost Squad Scotland.
Tomorrow night, we have Haunted Scotland, Emerald Isles paranormal researchers coming on. 2 of them are coming on to talk about their investigations in Ireland. I think they'll be showing some spooky
the same colour of hair as me. That's lovely. You know, that's silver.
On Saturday.
No, they're green. That's the same colour as your hair, almost. Look.
All right, I see it now. Yeah,
it's like the teal colour that you like. But I've put silver glitter over it to make it prettier.
Oh,
On Saturday, we've got Bold and Bonkers. We're talking about, obviously, this big news about the disclosure kind of stuff.
yeah.
I think that's really interesting. We've got a guest coming on to talk about that. So,
Yeah. We're also
Good
going to
snooching
try
in.
and go live on. We will be out scouting around for
Saturday.
locations and things on Saturday and going live.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully at a place. We'll see. You got anything coming up, Sherry? Or are you still just taking it easy and
Be honest, like I want to, but because of what I'm the one that's organising my nan's funeral and stuff like that. It's too much for me. I mean, like my fella
Yeah.
said to me the other day, "Why don't you just do like an overnight thing where you're not involved in it, but you do a setup and that?" I said, "Yeah, but what I'm worried about is it like hearing my nan or somebody come over the spirit, but I'm not ready to hear any of that at the minute."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I am going to try and get on and do some of my music and meditation shows to try to. Because this world at the minute is really upside down and there's a lot of energy coming towards us. Believe me, guys, it's coming.
Definitely.
We need as much of that as we can get.
Or
Yeah.
Puff, welcome. You
And
get a new
in the
subscriber there,
meantime,
Drew.
you're welcome to keep me company anytime. Sorry,
All
Chris.
Puff. That's
You
an
get a new
awesome
subscriber.
name. All Puff.
Oh, hello, or Puff.
That's an
finally
that's an
found
awesome name. Where did you get that name from?
Oh, we're just going as well. You'll need to rewatch.
Yeah.
I know.
Come back.
It's been a really good show.
Yes.
So remember, guys, definitely
everybody.
check out PWI Spiritual Investigator Sisters channel. It will be in the chat or it'll be in the description. Also check out Ghost Squad Scotland, guys. We are live there tomorrow night, 10:10 UK time. And our sister Mystical Love and Light is not here tonight because she is in further engagement. But check her out, guys, and we will be getting her back to go over the evidence of last week. Wait to see what she sees. Oh, my goodness.
Ghosts and ghouls.
Ghosts and ghouls.
That sounds
Goodbye
interesting.
for now, everybody. So I'll leave it up to you to say goodbye.
Goodbye,
if you want
everyone.
to.
Bye-bye, guys.
Goodbye,
Love, light, and
everyone.
blessings. See you soon.
Blessings, everybody.